Thank y'all for being here. All the good questions have been asked pretty much, but let me go down the line. What can we do to fix this?
Thank you for the question. I think that is the question of the day, right? And it is something that—
That's not going to get you anywhere complimenting me up here. It's better off if you attack me and insult me, and then everybody else will agree with you, but go right ahead.
Well, I probably won't go down that route, sir. We have to approach both from a defensive standpoint and what defensive measures, cybersecurity controls can companies and organizations put in place in order to protect their systems, to have good backups of their systems, to encrypt their own data so that it can't be encrypted by someone else and taken from them. And as we were just discussing, we need to be able to disrupt and deter actors in cyberspace. And we really need to find a way to shift the value proposition for ransomware actors. Today, they are able to do this with almost impunity and make a lot of money at it. And we've got to find kind of a whole of government and a whole of working with our allies to make real progress here.
Are any of our allied countries have people involved in this? I mean, it always seems like every time we come out and say, you're not going to break into this system, then some 12-year-old kid in somebody's garage gets into the system.
No, I think we have a really good international cooperation on this. As this hearing notes, it's a really big challenge,
Right.
and so it doesn't always feel like we're making the progress, but
Okay.
I think we are building those interactions across nations with a lot of our key allies.
All right. Doctor, how do you say your last name, ma'am?
Gosh.
Gosh. All right.
Yes, sir.
Good. I'm glad. Go ahead.
So from the educational standpoint, I think a lot of the things that could help school districts really has to do with funding and some discount programs and things like that. But additionally, there really needs to be some additional standards set for schools. There really isn't any.
Right, because a lot of this
Governing-
equipment's so outdated. I mean, you're
Correct.
sitting here talking to us. I mean, when I remember Mace asked me to be on this committee, I thought, a bunch of guys up here in powder blue leisure suits still listening to 8-track tape players and their 72 AMC Gremlins, I mean, we're the ones going to be making decisions on that, so I can appreciate that.
And there's other aspects of that. We spend a lot of time on emergency operations plans, but at least in Texas, there's not any particular guidance or requirements to deal with cybersecurity. It's just not talked about. Within education, it's not something that's supposed to necessarily happen. Right. I know in our case, a lot of times people think that due to lack of backups and things like that is why we went the route that we went. And we had all of the backups. That wasn't our issue. But we do have to, and then there's a lot of other regulatory things that would help in the cybersecurity piece as far as student data, just in having some regulations even on software companies.
Dr. Loeffler.
I agree with my colleague that from a hospital perspective, a lot of it's funding and grants. So in every budget that we build, as a doctor, I want to spend all the money on patient care technology, new equipment there. Prior to the cyber attack, usually cybersecurity stuff would fall down the budget, oftentimes come off. And so having ways to more cheaply buy programs and have those programs be current and new and upgraded, or grants to bring your hospital up to standards, have a strong backup so you don't have to pay the ransom, would make a huge difference, I believe.
Right, I'm surprised quite often how often medical records and things, photographs, things like that are taken out of specifically doctors.
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Rubin?
Thank you, sir. So I would break it up into what we can do in the public sector side and then, within private sector organizations. On the public sector side, I think bringing continued awareness to the problem like we're doing today is very important. I think continued support for local and state governments, as we discussed, the grant program, programs like that are phenomenal that provide a lot of resources. On the private sector side, I think it's a lot of the adoption of technology that we heard about here today, getting visibility across your state, both externally and internally with different tools, leveraging AI and other technology to separate the signal from the noise so you can see and respond to what's important, because no organization can fund the staff and the expertise that they need to do that without the help of technology. And then it's adopting best practices. There's a program or paradigm called Zero Trust, which is defense in depth and aligned with essentially what you need to know. And lastly, having a plan to respond.
All right. Well, I'm about out of time, but I would state to the committee, as elected officials, something we ought to be very much aware of. If they're reaching into these systems to take something out, they can reach in and put something in. And as elected officials, that's something we need to worry about. And I worry very much about Ms. Mace pointing at her timer and giving me the look.
You're
So
over.
my time is over. Thank you.